Hi everyone, Christina here. Welcome to day 19 of the holiday card series for 2020. I know I probably shouldn't have favorites when it comes to cards for the series, but this one might be my favorite. Like, don't tell anyone. It's my favorite. I don't think I've done anything quite like this with embossing and masking, and it's really dramatic, looks sophisticated, and it kind of looks store-bought. I know that's not always our goal with handmade cards because you want it to look handmade. You want it to look like you put some thought into it and that it was made with two hands and not printed. But this one's got a little bit of a slickness to it that's really fun. Let's get into it. The stamp set I'm using today is from Colorado Craft Company, and it is the Slimline Poinsettias stamp set. It's made specifically for slimline cards. The measurements I'm using for my card today is I have my white piece of paper, which is Neenah Classic Crest Solar White, 110 pound, cut to 9 by 7.5, and then my red paper is 8.5 by 3 1/4. And that red paper is actually cranberry cardstock from Concord and Ninth. I'm taking my white cardstock here and scoring it at 3 3/4. This is going to give me the perfectly sized slimline card to fit inside a number 10 envelope. It's a little bit longer and a little bit wider than if you were to make like the slimline measurements that I've shared previous to this. And that red cardstock just fits right on top. For the stamping of these images from the stamp set, I'm going to be first kind of positioning the stamp over the cardstock. I'm going to put my magnet in my MISTI tool to hold that paper in place. I'll transfer the image to the door of my MISTI and then use my powder tool. Planning to use some gold embossing powder, so I wanted to prep that cardstock before stamping. I'm using Versamark ink. It's a nice sticky ink for heat embossing powder, and I'll just stamp this once. Now I did mess up on the first stamping and I turned my cardstock over. That's why cardstock has two sides, right? To give you a second chance. So you might see it later in the video that there's a little bit of a ghosting image on the backside. I sprinkled on some gilded embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. It's my favorite gold embossing powder. It's not too yellow and it's not too almost platinum. It's like right in between. It's a nice golden yellow. And I hit that with my heat tool until it was smooth and melted. So I turned that around, or actually, before I did that, I decided to stamp that image on some masking paper while the image is still in my MISTI. So I just positioned that paper, put some ink on the stamp. Doesn't matter what ink you use for this because it won't be on the card, but I just wanted to stamp that while I had it in my MISTI. So I'm going to set that aside and I'll stamp this larger image as well once I get going here. So I stamped the other image from the stamp set, followed the same steps as I did for that previous grouping of poinsettias, and then applied that same embossing powder and hit that with my heat tool. I'm going to stamp the greeting for my stamp set while I'm doing all this stamping all at once. So I first used the Merry Christmas stamp, and I hit that with some gilded embossing powder and my heat tool. And then I added a little tiny secondary greeting that goes right below that says to you and yours. So I have the basic design of my card now, but I'm going to be adding some shading, and I've got this masking paper I'm going to be using because I thought, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you masked off the flowers, did some blending off the edge, and then it really accentuated the different red tones. I thought it'd be just really kind of neat to try it out. I'd never done it quite like this. So I trimmed out my masks and placed them onto my card design. I'm going to put this one on top first. And the ink I'm using today is Aged Mahogany Distress ink. And the reason I chose Distress ink over Distress Oxide ink is because this ink will slide right off of the embossing powder. Distress ink is water-based, and so the slick surface of the embossing powder resists any of that ink, and you can clean it up. It'll come into play later, and you'll see here. So I'm using a blending brush or a blender brush from Honeybee, and I'm just really intensifying that dark red shade right up against the edge of the flowers. I want to make sure I have a nice contrast between the color of the cardstock and the blended area. Putting the mask on the other end of my card, I'll do the same thing. I'm going to just blend up from the edge of the flowers. And I did notice that the masks didn't get too beat up when I did all this. So you could definitely do this for multiple cards. I would say you could probably get 3 or 4 cards out of the masks until they stop sticking to your project. So I'm peeling this up and you can see the really stark difference between the plain cardstock and where I blended. I think it looks so dramatic and cool. I'm going to take a little itty bitty blender brush. I think this one's from Picket Fence. And I'm just adding a little bit of that shading in different areas on the flowers. I made sure to hit the center of the flowers, and then I thought, I really like the look of that. Let's add some shading to the areas where, it's a petal that would be under another petal, putting a little shadow right there. And as I start adding more of these shaded areas, it does start to color the embossing powder a little bit. So once you have all of your blending done, on top of those areas that are stamped and embossed, you could then take a baby wipe and very quickly just wipe over those areas, and it cleans off the ink and makes the embossing powder bright again. Looks really, really cool. So my card's basically done at this point. I put some foam tape on the back and I pressed it down onto my white card front. So this is actually a rather simple card. It just took a little bit of time because I had to cut out those masks and do all of that blending. But I think this would be really pretty repeated on different colors of cardstock, even though I know poinsettias are generally just white or red. So are you hopping on the slimline card trend this year? They're really popular. It kind of came out of nowhere. I just call them long skinny cards, but I've been doing slimline cards for a long, long time. The first time I ever made one was, gosh, it must have been back in 2009 when I worked at Basic Gray. It was a long time ago. But anyway, tell me in the comments, are you hopping on that slimline card trend? It's really interesting. On screen, I've got 3 videos for you to check out. These are going to be the 3 most recent years of the holiday card series for day 19. So check those out. And thank you so much for joining me today. I will catch you guys on Wednesday for day 20.